Welcome back to Real Conversations with Nora for our 55th episode. And our topic of discussion this week is the power of changing your look. And joining me today is Ekeena Majors. Ekeena is a creator and innovator with over 21 years of experience as a licensed master stylist. And she's passionate and focused on being a positive influence for others, rather. She has been able to build a career by establishing a consistent clientele, having featured work in TV, film, and published magazines. And she continues to be an asset in the beauty industry by providing educational and technique skills, business building strategies, and more than that, an exciting new platform called Gut, Sweat, and Shears. She is also the creator of the industry of fashionable functional apparel line Master Brand. And Ekeena believes professional image, motivation, financial education, and positive, and I want to say positive, she didn't say positive, but I'm going to add that in there, and personal self-development will be the foundation of a solid, successful career in the beauty industry. So Ekeena, thank you for joining us today. Oh my God, you look fabulous. Your makeup is like absolutely fabulous. So thank you again for joining us today. Can you talk more about how women who have different types of hair issues, when they when they come into the salon, and I know for me, oh my goodness, the first time I stepped into your salon, I found you on Instagram and I just fell in love with your work. How did that make you feel as a stylist to have a woman come in there who may just have some hair issues that are, that she doesn't want to wear her natural hair, or that she may be losing hair? For me, it was a thinning of hair. So can you just talk about how that makes you feel as a stylist?
Sure. I definitely do believe that there are so many different types of situations out there.
Mhm.
Everything is not specifically catered to what we call traction alopecia, which is affecting the hair and scalp from pulling styles, tension, that sort of thing. A lot of things are either hereditary or sometimes brought on from different medications, different life, things that's happened in life. And I just feel like I'm excited to actually be the person who developed a particular skill set that can actually help bring women more confidence. Some things can't be reversed. Some can, with the proper installation of the weaving techniques. You can kind of buy some time to actually try to reverse the and bring hair restoration back. So I just think it depends on the situation. I enjoy actually getting to know everyone and find out a little bit of the foundation as to why their hair loss is there, because then it can kind of help them feel a little bit more
Right.
comfortable when they're being serviced. You can learn if they're introvert or if they're talkative and that sort of thing. Kind of tell you the environment that the person is looking for. And I have some clients who like to talk a lot, some who just run in the salon and they're just ready to talk to me, and I'm like, oh, she's in the chair, and she's not that excited about someone seeing that hair loss. So getting to know a person can kind of help you identify also with what kind of service they need so that they can feel comfortable in my space. I enjoy that, providing that kind of atmosphere.
Great. So can you talk about your class that you teach others, your techniques in cutting, and how a weave doesn't have to look like a weave, or a wig doesn't have to look like a weave? I mean, you are just I always talk about you, and you're just so good at making women feel natural. I mean, sometimes, people, and I think it's probably all of a lack of knowledge. They go in, they buy to a store and they buy a cheap wig, and it looks like a cheap wig actually. But with your technique and your style and how you cut, it just makes the person feel, especially from a teaching point of view, feel that, especially, or the customer, better yet, feel totally comfortable about their look. And so I know that you teach a class and teaching others your technique, which is such I want to say a big heart, because oftentimes when people get a skill, they don't want to share. They don't want to share it with the world. They want to keep it for themselves. And to me, just to be able to share, like the word of God says, give and it shall be given to you, pressed down, shaken together. And I believe, as the word says, that for the measure which you have given and poured into others will be given and poured back to you. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Because your classes, I mean, like I said, that's how I found you. I found you on Instagram, and I was like, And that first word you said, your weave or your wig, whatever you want to wear, doesn't have to look that way. And I was like, oh, I like her. I like her.
Well, it's crazy because I find that because I actually wear the service sometimes that I have a slight advantage. I know I've always loved natural, simple, soft looks for myself.
Right.
I've done hair for years and I've serviced all different types of hairstyles. But for me personally, I like soft hair. So it gives me the advantage to kind of knowing how to seek out different techniques, whether it's cutting techniques, track placement, that sort of thing. And so in my classes, I focus a lot on foundational work, like how to create a perfect foundation that can kind of minimize lumps and bumps and that sort of thing that can make a style look not so natural if those particular flaws are visible.
Mm-hmm.
And, I focus specifically on track placement. A lot of times, stylists don't understand that you kind of can't put hair in one standard way and
Mm-hmm.
then get the hairstyle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not growing from your scalp. It doesn't have the same pliability, so the hair doesn't move whatever way you want it to move. You
Right.
have to know sometimes to put that track in the position. If you want it to go to the left, you have to put it to the left. If you want it to go to the right, that sort of thing. So track placement is a big part of my training,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely cutting. I think in our culture we have a misconception that all we need are shears, meaning just scissors. If you pick up, and if you are just using scissors or shears, we like to call them, you have to make sure that your cutting techniques are not just a blunt cut.
Right.
Using different cutting techniques like pinch point cutting, slithering, um, just different things like that. They can help add texture and minimize bulk,
Mm-hmm.
create a low density style, and a lot of times things like that really do help achieve a really nice natural look. So in my trainings, I focus a lot on track placement and
Mm-hmm.
definitely cutting techniques because that's the foundation of a natural looking weave.
Right.
Hmm.
And let's talk about, because that's not all you do too, because you do the natural hair and you do people who, um, I know some people have, some stylists have gone like my daughter, who's totally gone natural. She doesn't do perms anymore, but that's her choice. But
Yeah.
so there's a big focus in the industry right now on natural. Do you think that that's affected your client base? Or from me, we have two girls. There's like five of us. I think five of us. Yeah, there's five of us. Now there's two of us that said we are not going natural. Now the others have said they are going natural, but her and I said, no, I'm not going natural. Okay, but there is a big industry right now where people are going back, back in time. I mean, some of them need a little shape up, but that's hey. But it is. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's your thought about that in the industry, and especially has it affected your customers or your client base?
It hasn't. I think going natural is a beautiful thing. I think it's a very confident thing. I believe that women who transition back to more of a natural look, they're looking for more of a connection with themselves, feeling more natural. Like, so I think they're embracing culture. And I think anytime we can sit back and embrace who we are,
Mhm.
that's an amazing thing.
Right.
So I do have clients who are actually natural, but they do sometimes seek out still weaving techniques because of different things. Maybe they just had a baby, and if you just had a baby, sometimes you can't really focus so much on just the maintenance of keeping your natural hair healthy. So
Mhm.
sometimes you'll seek, like, I just need a transitional protective style to kind of get me through this particular moment in my life.
Right.
Um, as women, we're always so up and down with our weight. So
Right.
because we're up and down with our weight,
Tell me about it.
doing that protective style, even when you're natural, can kind of help out, so you don't feel like you have to avoid the gym or you have to avoid the track
Right.
and things like that. And also, weaving, is it you don't have to put it in bone straight. You can also make sure that you stay as true to yourself as a natural hair, naturalista, we like to call them. So you
Mhm.
can get more textured hair. You can get hair that curls when it's wet. Just all different types of things. So I don't really feel like it's hurt my industry. I
Mhm.
do think that it's given women who are even transitioning from relaxer to natural a
Mhm.
little bit more of an easier transition because they don't have to go through the combination of having relaxed hair and natural hair and then causing harm by trying to apply heat to keep it straight. They can kind of play around with things and just make sure they keep it conditioned properly,
Mhm.
trained properly by seeking out a professional like myself. Then that transition becomes easier for them. So I just think it hasn't hurt. It's actually helped some women, and at the same
Right.
time, I think it's added to just women just being confident and comfortable with themselves.
Okay, good. So let's
Mhm.
talk about how important it is for a stylist to continue to educate themselves about the upcoming changes in the hair industry. And I know that is ongoing. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because sometimes people, you get set in your ways and this is how I do it. And we don't go back and we don't educate ourselves when it is important to educate yourself, especially if you want to grow.
Definitely, definitely. I myself, I always say that I'm always a student. So just because I'm an educator doesn't mean that I don't seek out education. I believe that we should definitely seek out education anywhere where we don't feel like we're strong in. If you know someone who actually, whether they're a freelance educator like myself, or even just a part of an actual platform or school, if you feel like you need to go back and get more advanced formal education, you should, because trends are constantly changing. And if you're seeking out any kind of opportunity in film, television, or even just service in the general public, you guys kind of go off of trends as well. I mean, we're women, so we're trendy. So we go off of trends. If you bring in a style that is, a beautiful woman like I'll just say Holly Berry. We like to say
Yeah.
Holly Berry all the time, right? So if you bring in Holly Berry, you have to know how to give that particular cut. And if you've been cutting one particular way for so many years, then maybe you don't realize that there are some things that you need to brush up on so that your client can feel like they're getting the services,
Right.
not seek those services elsewhere. So it's landing me, educating myself is landing me amazing opportunities. And
Right.
I encourage everybody, like, just always educate where you feel like you're weak at it and make you a lot stronger as a
Right.
stylist.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm a Google person. I love to Google. So I Googled something the other day and it says, what is the difference between a partial sew-in, a
Uh,
flip over, fix in, lace front wig, or weaves? Oh,
okay. Because there are so many categories, right?
okay.
There's not just, there's the quick weaving technique that's just done with the basic glue and a foundation that's just going to protect the hair. It generally lasts anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on proper maintenance. I don't suggest it go anywhere past that. Then, of course, you do have those lace front wigs. Lace front wigs were actually brought into the industry through TV and film first. I mean, people have been wearing them for years, but
Wow.
now that we brought it into the regular everyday to day life, there are
Mhm.
all different types of ways that you can apply those. And you just have to be really careful, because if you're using adhesive that is too strong and you do not have a problem with like hairline and that sort of thing, you can cause problems. So it's definitely advised to connect with an expert with that.
Right.
The Vixen sewing that you spoke of, Vixen sewing, I don't even know why we call it that, but it is called the Vixen sewing. I don't really understand the name, but
Uh,
that just means that it gives a versatility with parting. So more than likely, I believe that's a sewing that's parted off in 4 different sections. So the client
wow.
could either wear it up in the front, down in the back, into two
Okay.
ponytails. I don't really know who's gonna wear it into 4 ponytails, but you have
Right.
that option too. Or you're wearing it all down. So yeah, that flip over method just gives you a lot of body and balance. If you track it one way and flip it the opposite way, it kind of gives a little volume at the base and gives you a glamour sort of
Right.
effect. Sew-ins have been around for years, traditional sew-ins. It's so many categories. So again, it's
Right.
just always about trying to cater to the client's specific need and longevity.
Right. So
Mhm.
what are some of the common mistakes that could ruin a weave or wig, or even better yet, the customer's hair? Because I'm sure you've had people come into your salon, and you can imagine like how they did what they did, and being customers, and then the stylist does the hair, and of course to them it looks good, but it wasn't really healthy, and it kind of ruined either their hair. Like you said, you have to be careful with the adhesive. So what's your thought on that?
It's funny because there's not just one thing that can take it out. You have services that are done with glue. Of course, that can affect the hair if it's actually applied incorrectly. Maybe
Hmm.
too much put on the track. If you apply a lot of pressure when you're performing that service, the glue will kind of what we call bleed. And that just means you had a little bit too much on the weft, and it just kind of created a little bit of a messiness at the scalp.
Hmm.
So you have that, the improper removal of it. If you're getting it removed in the salon, hopefully you're getting it moved by someone who's an expert at doing that. But if you're trying to remove it at home, you can create problems by not using the proper solvent to get it out. Sew-ins, a lot of tension, and just it makes no sense to kind of braid it and sew it into where it's just attached forever. It's just that's still temporary as well. So definitely the tension and making sure you don't pull the tracks when you're doing it. It's so many things that can cause problems. I like to kind of give my clients the different foundations that I know for a fact. Again, once you get to know the person, you know
Hmm.
what their lifestyle is, so you can kind of cater the foundation according to what their lifestyle is.
Hmm.
And just definitely, of course, to different hair types and textures, making sure that if you're dealing with fine hair, you're not putting too much tension and
Hmm.
pulling too much, and someone who has more of a fragile hairline, like myself, I can't put a lot of tension on my hairline either.
Right.
Hmm.
I can remember one time having a quick weave done, and it was so tight that
Yeah.
I had to take Tylenol, and then
Ooh,
finally I couldn't take it anymore. I just had to take it out.
really?
So, do people? I mean, it was just too tight. I mean, it
Mhm.
was fabulous, but it was too tight for my head. And of course, it was said, to loosen up. So when you're doing your working with your clients, do you stress that? Or are you sensitive about that? Let's talk about that. Being sensitive about that, especially if the customer says, "Well, I don't want it too tight," because I'm sensitive, like I am, very sensitive.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
your
I think it's just about talking to your client,
right?
having that consultation. I know you can have more of a serious consultation before a service even gets rendered, but
Right.
even you can have small consultations while you're performing the service at the
Mm,
shampoo bowl, maybe
right.
while you're blow dry and prepping. I like to work backwards and reverse. I like to find out what someone experienced, so I know
Right.
what not to do. So in
Right.
your case, if you're in the chair and I ask, like, is there anything about quick weaves that you don't like?
Right.
And generally, you don't know that it's not catered to the technique. It's more so catered
Right.
to the person who performed that service on you
Right.
previously. So if
Right.
you told me that, then I know for a fact that we need to discuss foundation and what
Right.
your options are so that you don't experience that. And even if you can recall what that person actually did,
Mhm.
then I can work outside of that area as well to make
Right.
sure that I'm not doing what you've experienced to put more of a bad, a dark cloud
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
me. Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's something else I read on Google. It says the global hair wig and extension market is expected. Oh my God. When I heard these numbers, I was like, what? But I guess, okay, I can see it, to reach over 13 billion, growing over 13% during 2021 and 2026. They're even going into the future. What's your thought about that? I mean, that says, wow, there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah, yeah. Well, those numbers are coming from in salon services, and they're now coming from stylists shifting more into being business owners, owning the companies, owning the hair brands.
Mhm.
That sort of thing is helping our numbers go up,
Good.
retailing those particular products that you might need for your service. I think it's a great thing. I always think it's a great thing if you can actually bring in maximum monetary value for your services because we do
Right.
work really, really hard, but at the same time, I just want us, I make sure in my trainings that I try to encourage people to not focus solely about the money. If you focus on the person, you have no choice but to make money off
Right.
of it.
Right.
I just want to make sure that with those numbers that we're still making sure that the customers are being taken care of because
Right.
there's a
Right.
lot of money in it, definitely.
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's another thing they said. Since then, the weave business has become a $9 billion industry. The
Mhm.
desire among African American women to look good and make them spend more, however, whatever it is that they need to achieve just to look good. And that kind of brings back to the point that you talked about.
Mhm.
If I think if you focus on the customer and the quality and the service, and you become excellent at what you do and making the customer look and feel good, then the money will come. The money will come. Of
Mhm.
course, that's probably another retail part of the industry,
Mhm.
where people actually sell hair.
Yeah.
Um, and so, what's your thought about that? Because they're saying here in our industry, which is probably mostly our industry, mostly us, that with the weave and I mean, I don't know what Caucasian women do in terms of weaves and wigs, unless, of course, due to sickness or cancer or that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Is that something that they even look towards, or is it more not our industry, but more
Like our
catered
partner.
catered to us? Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I can say.
Well, I think all women have been wearing weave additions for years. We may wear it differently within our African American culture than Caucasian. When I was in cosmetology school, I service Caucasian clients. We put
Mhm.
hair pieces in, we put ponytails on, we did a lot of things like that. And I just noticed in our culture, we wear it. Sometimes it's almost like an accessory. We have so much funk and so much style that
Right,
sometimes my clients actually want it just for an occasion.
right,
I just want to go to my cousin's wedding and I want hair down to my shoulders, or
right,
I want to go to an event and I'm thinking of an updo or a bob or that sort of thing. So I just think that we have a different way of wearing it because
right,
in our culture we're just so much I'm not going to say more fashion, but we just are like we're fashionistas.
Very fast, very fast.
Very fashion forward, right? And that kind of pushes us into if our hair isn't that way, my hair is naturally short. So if I wanted a classic cut blunt bob, that I would have to add something in order to achieve that
Right.
look for an event. So I just think we pay attention to trends a lot. And going on in 2021, there are so many trends
Mm-hmm.
because of social media and stuff like
Right.
that. We have those options to kind of shift our looks around.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: how much was the hair industry affected by COVID-19? Your industry, I think a lot of. I noticed that you were doing a lot of wigs during that time because people were home and people weren't coming out. This is, I mean, it's getting a little better. If everybody would get a vaccination, but that's another conversation, another show. But but
I'm vaccinated.
but people are. Some people, I found that there were a lot of businesses, not necessarily just the hair industry, that went out of business. They could not last through the storm. They could not last through the storm. How do you feel that the hair industry really lasted through the storm? And I think even through that during that time, or through that time rather, that's when people started really going natural because they were stuck. And so what's your thought?
Yeah, we found so many ways. There were a lot of people who started to pretty much take care of their hair at home because we couldn't be around each other.
Right.
And in some case, I saw a lot of my friends who retailed really well. They were doing stuff like doing dropout kits on doorsteps. I thought that was really creative because they
Wow.
had a product line, so they were dropping off natural hair products to their natural hair clients, so they can at least keep it shampooed and moisturized and conditioned until the salons open back up.
Right.
Myself, I did start to make a lot more wigs and everything because I service a lot of clients who wore hair pieces. It kind of pushed me into perfecting that sort of technique. I wasn't doing it a lot away
Right.
from the salon. I was more so servicing that in the salon. So that kind of pushed me out of a comfort zone to kind of get out there and find another way to produce income during a hard time.
Right.
A lot of us didn't sustain COVID for a lot of reasons. A lot of us, whether we didn't have our foundation together with business, we may not have had, or maybe just the salon owners decided to close the salon, and it was hard for you to, if you didn't have a good email list or like those tools and strategies and software that I use to make sure that I can always have in-person contact with my client if I needed to. They didn't have those things set up. So it's really important that you make sure that regardless of where you have to move your business, you might have to relocate from one city to the next city just based off of a family member that might have, had hard times during that. And you have to be able to get in touch with people and keep in touch. And to be really honest, Nora, it really, I would always say this. I always felt like I've been in the industry for 23, 24 years. I always felt like my industry was one that can never be affected by anything. We're not affected by government shutdown,
Right.
by anything in a sense where we can always choose to work when we want. But for the
Right.
first time, like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. For the first time, we were affected because I would have never thought in a million years that they would say I couldn't be around someone. I would always say, "Oh, you can't stop me from using my hands unless
Right.
I have an injury." But I
Right.
always thought that because I was a creative person, that no matter where I go, I can always make money, right? So when that came into play, we just had to start thinking differently, thinking more like professionals, business owners, and just really like, woo, when I say it's been the hardest time for us and
Right.
for anybody, if you just kind of push through and know that you're there and know your purpose for being there, then you can find ways to kind of make sure that you stay grounded in the business.
Right. I kind of think that it actually forced people like yourself to become more creative, to bring out that creativity that was already there, but you just took it to another level. I mean, people that, I think it was a time, or it should have been a time when people could think, you know what, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to create something that works for, this gadget or that gadget. It was a time to really sit still, hear the voice of God and say, God, show me where I can be more creative. Like you said, you had your friends who were dropping off product and putting it on doorsteps of their customers and stuff, getting really, really creative during that time. But like you said, I think the world was, who would have thought? Who would have thought that we would have ever been in a state that we are in now, where we just couldn't go out? There was a mandate. You had to wear a mask. You couldn't go out. You couldn't get toilet paper. You couldn't get paper towels. I mean, things like that we literally took for granted. So now it's a totally different ball game. I believe that now we're thinking different. Okay, these are the things that I really need to be thinking about, like you said, in your business and how you can make some changes. What's your thought about that? I mean, the real change that you brought, because I watch you on, Instagram all the time, right? And I was like, okay, she's going in a different direction now because of what she has to do.
Yeah, yeah. Even in the salon, just the back and forth of making sure you wipe the chair down, making sure your station was always clean, making sure your clients saw you doing these things, because I just like to try to work my best with showing someone that they're being well taken care of, opposed
Right,
to someone having to ask me, like, can you wipe the chair or can you
right,
wipe the sink? So I take the extra time that I do that while the client is standing there.
right,
And those little things kind of help the service, make the service take a little longer. But I just feel like if I'm looking for client retention, that those are now, I didn't bring on COVID, no one did, so we just have
right,
to adjust in a way where it benefits us. And just like you said, I've been just doing my best to stay grounded. I've been behind the chair for so long that
right,
um I'm also looking to expand like more into my educational platform and just now helping stylists. I love you guys as well, but just I feel like any other industry or any other person, once you reach a certain part in your career, you're looking for retirement options, and
right,
you're trying to see what that looks like for you. And for
right.
me, it looks like transitioning from behind the chair and just focusing more on how to leave an impact in the industry, so that I at least know that I didn't take everything with me and I left something behind for somebody else.
That is awesome.
Mhm, thank
Well,
you.
Keena, I want to thank you for being our guest on Real Conversations with Nora today. This was so educational and so informative. Are there any last minute comments that you would like to share with the audience? And also, please, please, please tell them how they can follow you on social media and stay in contact with you.
Okay, sure. You can follow me on Instagram, which is my name that you see there, Ekeena360. If you want any information about my education, you can also click the link in my bio, and it'll take you directly to my website. And you can find a lot of training there. I'm excited about that. I'm just excited about what you've been doing, Miss Nora. I don't really want to talk too much about myself, because being able to be a part of this platform, I think this type of stuff is needed a lot. Like podcasting and that sort of thing, we're getting really, really heavy into because we're home a lot. So being
Right,
able to be home and listen to some powerful motivational words, something impactful
right.
that can help, I commend you. Of course,
Mhm.
anytime you need me, I'm here. And just
Thank
keep doing a really good job. I love this. I'm excited that you actually chose me to be a part of it.
Thank you. I'm excited that you chose to accept it. And we're actually talking about taking it to another level. We're working on taking it to another level where they can actually listen to it on the radio if they're driving. So, my a great social media person. I'm so thankful for her. But once again, I want to thank you for your insight on today's topic. It was so smooth and it was fun, to hear about the different ways that we can make ourselves look good and feel good as women, and our choices that we choose to make, whether we choose to go natural, or whether we choose to have a wig, or like you said, or weave, or long or short, or whatever. I mean, we just have so many options, but we would not have those options without people like yourself, who are excellent in your expertise and your talent, and your desire to make that look polished and look good. So I thank you for that. And to my Real Conversation with Nora audience, please follow us on social media on on Instagram at bwotmfg.com. And let me go back on Instagram at bwotmfg, and on Facebook at Businesswomen on the Move for God. And visit our website at bwotmfg.com and sign up for our new programs, and make sure you stop by a retail store where you will find lots of items, not only for you, but your family and friends. And ask your friends to watch the show each week and share it. Make sure you share it with others. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Real Conversations with Nora. Have a blessed and prosperous week. Again, thank you for joining us. We look forward to again seeing you next Thursday. Have a blessed week.